This is Dr. Wysong. This series of videos on the big questions of life will show where each one of us is led if we dare to leave behind preconceived ideas and see where reason and evidence lead. Life after death. If you've come this far with me, you'll see that the facts, logic, and science we've explored up to now funnel us into a whole new way of looking at who we are, why we're here, and where we're going. This creates a logical sequence. In summary, we've learned that the physical world and our bodies are not really solid matter all the way down. The nothingness of which reality is composed is best explained as being occupied by intelligence. In the domain of intelligence, mind and thought, time is not linear and can be accessed in any direction. Neither atoms nor evolution explain the origin of intelligence, free will, or life. The intricacies of the universe and life cry out creation by an extraordinary intelligence, a creator not properly defined by man-made religions and holy books. Our conscious essence is like thought and not reducible to nor explained by the temporal body and brain. This implies that we must have pre-existed earth life and will survive its end. In turn, it can be inferred, and it's supported by empirical and experiential evidence, that there is life beyond this physical world that would not be restricted by the limitations of physicality. That would mean that we can shed the constraints of this physical world. These understandings would explain paranormal phenomena such as out-of-body experiences, near-death experiences, after-death communications, clairvoyance, telepathy, and the whole bag of weird things that fly in the face of the confinements of materialism. Death is birth in reverse. Most people assume that the only way to know about life beyond the grave would be to guess or to listen to those who claim to have a hotline to God. On the contrary, there is a wealth of direct testimony and evidence that gives us glimpses of life beyond. In addition, we can apply reason, sound scientific principles, and can even weigh direct personal experience. If you can develop paranormal abilities, you might even be able to visit the real life behind the scenes of this physical one and see for yourself. If not, then you should give consideration, critically of course, to the testimony and evidence from those who claim to have done so. Put out of mind cultural and religious preconceptions about what death is and what it is like afterwards. Don't think in terms of phantasmagoric streets of gold, fire and pitchforks, white beards, wings, and halos. We'll settle down to the more matter-of-fact, mundane, but nonetheless fantastic ideas that emerge from a sober look at the actual evidence. Dr. Robert Krukal, in a series of meticulous books, examined countless cases of OBEs, NDEs, and psychic communications with those who have died. He found remarkable consistency, regardless of the culture, in accounts of the death process and the transition to a non-material, telepathic, clairvoyant realm. The after-death anatomy. Krukal's research describes death being as natural as conception and birth. His subjects report that at death our true nature is revealed. The non-physical anatomy is composed of what he calls spirit, soul, and vehicle of vitality. During physical life, they are bound together within the earthly body and are attached to it by means of what he calls a silver cord. This cord is sometimes visible to the living at the bed of those dying. Observers have reported seeing an ephemeral body apart from the physical one but attached to it by this cord. When people experience OBE or NDE events, and for a time after true mortal death, the cord remains attached, permitting a dual consciousness. The cord is described as a lifeline connection between the non-material body and the material one. Even skeptical doctors have reported seeing the silver cord phenomena while at the bedside of their dying patients. Each type of death, untimely death, natural death in sleep, death by explosion, death after lingering illness, and so on, creates a different death experience that Krukal has carefully cataloged in a style that can best be described as scientific and clinical. In sudden unexpected death, the person may find themselves doing what they were doing before they died, driving the car, running across a battlefield. and be wondering why nobody sees them or can hear them talk. A death while sleeping may result in a sense of vivid dreaming. A protracted and exhausting illness may result in a limbo of restful recuperation. By the time one finishes re-examining Dr. Krukall's works, or the many others in this field, it's extremely difficult to view death as a mere physical termination or any sort of mystical experience at all. He and other researchers present a compelling body of evidence demonstrating that when the stopper of earth life is pulled, only the material part drains away, not the vapor of our essence. At death, we remain attached to the body by the silver cord while at the same time having a sense of separateness, like a baby in the womb. The dead are said to be able to see their physical body and even observe and hear the events surrounding their death in a hospital room, at home, or at the scene of a car accident. When we depart the body, the silver cord remains attached, and there is a clear sense of duality, like a baby after delivery with umbilical cord still attached. After the silver cord breaks, the corporal ballast is shed, and we realize we have a life independent and free from the body. In the non-physical realm, we do, however, need nurturing to readjust to the non-physical realm, just like infants need the care of parents to adjust to their after-womb environment. Moving on into adult life in the non-physical world has a lot to do with how amenable we are to accepting what is happening. If we are fixated in this life with some religious expectation, or in denial of the possibility of life after death because of materialistic indoctrination, the transition can be difficult and slow, appropriately likened to a stubborn and protracted breech birth. Death is a birth into a form that can again be born as a human. That's what reincarnation is. That is no less believable than physical birth on the heels of conception and gestation, all of which are miraculous events. Voltaire said, "It's no more surprising to be born twice than once." Ralph Waldo Emerson wrote, "The soul is an emanation of divinity, a ray of light from the source of light. It comes from without into the human body as into a temporary abode, and then it goes out of it anew. It wanders in ethereal regions and it returns to visit the earth where it passes into another body, for the soul is immortal." The after-death world. The following eclectic description of the after-death world is gathered from the numerous resources listed at the end of this book. When you learn the credentials of the authors and researchers, experience their humility, openness, and lack of agenda, and consider that you are getting the same story from people spread over thousands of years and from every imaginable culture and circumstance. That's children, aborigine, farmer, noble, pauper, scientist, doctor. Given all that, there is every reason to pay close attention. Here's a brief synopsis of the testimony gathered from after-death communications and out-of-body and near-death experiences. At death, people feel more alive than ever and have no sense of having died at all. Looking back at the body, it appears as only a fleeting garment of earth life. The dead say the easiest thing in life is death. Death should not be equated with the pain that often precedes it. There is no pain at the time of death, even with hanging and burning. This is explained by the subconscious simply leaving because it is aware of what is about to happen to the body. Right after physical death, there is a traveling through tunnel experience, after which people are met by beings of light, and a particular one who knows them deeply. The feeling is one of coming home. Friends are everywhere. There is a wondrous sense of peace, comfort, warmth, well-being, and embracing love. In the period in between Earth's lives and the non-physical realm, we are met by friends, relatives, and guides who help us transition and understand the meaning of Earth experiences. Love pervades, and there is no punishment or judgment other than what we impose on ourselves for having failed ourselves. Other beings, called guides, emanate only love and patience. The feeling of acceptance is said to be like being hugged by a father who loves you regardless. The non-physical world has exquisite beauty, perfect temperature, intense light and color, overwhelming smells, and enthralling sounds. It makes Earth seem dull and shadow-like by comparison. Earth becomes the dream, spirit life the true reality. Things don't create sound, they are sound. Things don't emit odor, they are fragrance. Things don't reflect light, they are light. The beauty and sense of reality in the other plane is far beyond anything we experience on Earth. A soldier reports, the most exquisite scenery imaginable. 1 minute I was blasting away, and then I was in the most beautiful, peaceful garden. At death, there is a greatly expanded sense of consciousness and a feeling of being part of an infinite intelligence and creative power. There is the sense of freedom from weight. The real you has been extracted. One 7-year-old boy who died reported back to a medium that death was like walking into your mind. Things are enormously interesting, delightful, boundless, free, light, and infinite. There are immortal sensibilities. Space means nothing. Time stands still, but access to any part of it requires mere thought. The dead instantly possess special powers such as telepathy, instantaneous travel, and foreknowledge. All they need to do is think a person or place, and there they will be. Intuitive and imaginative capabilities are fantastically enhanced, intellectual skills unimportant. Reality in the non-physical world is thought forms, just as it is in this, only we are not seduced, blinded, and entranced by the material. Unencumbered by the constraints of the physical world, mind is everything. If you think about food, it will be a part of your life. If you don't, it will disappear. Choose to pick a fight, and thought-form wounds will result from the battle. There are golfers' realms, as well as those for dancers, runners, hikers, basketball players, and every imaginable religious one, including those for the most piously and smugly assured. If you think about sex, it will be a part of your life. If you don't, it won't. Sex reportedly takes on many different forms, physical type, intercourse being only one of them, and reportedly the least enjoyable of the options. People are in complete control of their destiny and only move from one experience or plane to another if and when they desire. Moving up from only playing golf every day is a choice that comes from within. Health returns to its most perfectly youthful state. One dead person reported to a psychic, "My frame seemed to have been remade with some highly malleable rubber. That was a huge improvement over material bones and joints. I could bend over backwards in a perfect N shape. I tried bouncing on my feet, a foot, then 2 foot, then 3, all quite effortless. How could the earth," there are said to be perfect duplicates of earth in this reality, "be so like a trampoline?" "No, it's my new rubbery feet," he said. Creativity is an integral part of our nature, and in the non-physical realm, it is at an especially high pitch. One person described practicing creating miniature solar systems. The beauty of the universe and our ability in the physical plane to explore and appreciate it to the degree we do is said to be testimony to our participation in its creation. Everyone experiences a life review in which all of life's experiences are brought to memory. Judgment turns out to be an intimate and complete personal exploration. Nothing remains hidden. That exploration is of choices we made in Earth along with their impact on others, complete with experiencing the pain or joy one has caused. The pangs of conscience we feel in Earth life are said to be amplified in an excruciating way during the life review. The dead see themselves totally uncloaked, naked, their inner motives are fully exposed. No excuses or surprises. Each person turns out to be his own most severe judge. Conscience is fully revealed as a touchstone for living that we sense it is while on earth. The dead love where they are. If it is an untimely near-death experience, they are reluctant to return to the body. They only return because counselors remind them that their objective on earth has not been completed, but the choice is theirs. We control our own destiny and are never victims. The transition after death is easy if the mind is open, difficult and confusing otherwise. There are various levels of existence after death, and they match, to begin at least, the death expectation of the person, so as to make the transition as easy and comfortable as possible. Those expecting to see Jesus, Mohammed, or saints may do so. Those expecting a paradise will find that. Those in disbelief that death can be anything other than oblivion will flounder in a state of believing they are only dreaming. Some who cannot give up the idea of earth life or refuse to admit their new dimensional state wander the earth, interfering either mischievously or maliciously with the unsuspecting. These would be the ghosts, the spooks, the possessions, and so on. Ascent to higher levels of learning, growth, and experience, or to the decision to try another material sojourn on Earth or elsewhere, comes after counseling with guides and personal reflection. But people are in control of their own destinies, and there is an eternity of patience. The same personality and characteristics that differentiated people from others while on Earth are retained. The inner us does not really ever change, other than hopefully becoming better, meaning closer to what we all sense we should be if we listen to conscience. Those still on Earth draw the dead to them by their thoughts or by mourning. Those on the other side keenly feel the grieving of those on Earth. One past individual talked about the empathetic pain he felt for a person on Earth grieving. Being able to feel the raw edge of her wound as if it were my own, he said. This pull is a distraction to those past, since life beyond is filled with interesting activity. Besides, they know those on Earth will be with them momentarily. Earth life is seen as but a tiny blip in the eternity of existence, so time isn't relevant to them as it is to those of us while on Earth. The reason those who have passed do not usually communicate with those on Earth is because they're in a different dimension, at a different vibration, as it's said to be. Spirit life is extremely fast and complicated due to its telepathic nature. On the other hand, Earth life is extremely slowed, so as to experience slowed but time-sensitive physical reality. The earthly physical body acts as a governor, permitting us more measured contemplation and experience. As smart as we may think we are with our physical brains, we are in no way capable of comprehending and sorting out the volume of data present in a dimension where there is the fluidity of infinite interconnectedness. The sharply focused morsel of reality presented by our senses on Earth, with beginnings and ends, causes and effects, doesn't equip us for the infinite dynamics of the non-physical world. All mediums express the speed difficulty between those in the spirit world and Earth world. Material humans cannot speed up enough, and the spirits have trouble slowing down. If you observe a medium in action, this difficulty in tempo between the two worlds is often obvious. Also, the dead do not speak to mediums in sentences, but rather with impressions that the medium often struggles to interpret and relate in sentence form. To the dead, life on Earth is like a few minutes, and almost inconsequential. They feel no need to communicate with us on Earth, since we will be with them in a blink of an eye in their time. The job in Earth life is to engage its reality and live well, not be preoccupied with life beyond. Although those in the after-death reality may intercede occasionally in human affairs, the task at hand for humans in physical Earth life is to reach within and conquer the tests before them, not be supplicants to those beyond to solve problems. The choice to come to Earth is ours. We also choose our parents. We merge with the developing fetus. In the early stages in the womb, we make to and fro visits. There is work to be done in joining with the growing child. A child's inabilities and awkwardness may, in part, reflect the difficulty in melding spirit with physical. Visits to Earth in human form are for the express purpose of utilizing slowed experience on Earth to implant moral lessons. These are needed to advance to another higher plane of being in the spirit world. A physical body and brain permit us the opportunity for discovery and error, and with that the pleasure of success and the pain of failure. Such experience can more effectively forge character. This helps explain why people tend not to learn by being told, but only through personal experience. The purpose of life on Earth is to develop morally and to learn. Multiple existences facilitate this process. A whole life or series of lives may be necessary to get through a person's thick skull, their being, that one must be honest to oneself before they can be honest to others, or that theft, conceit, violence, and selfishness are counterproductive to the inner development. Earth life is like a forging furnace. People come, go through the fire and get hammered a bit, take a cooling off break in the non-Earth plane, come back, get hammered some more, until they have learned all that is possible by Earth experience or decide to learn by some other means. Learning in the spirit realm continues endlessly and is aided by libraries, movies, sage teachers, mentors, and boundless friends and helpmates. Some do all their learning in the non-physical dimension and never come to Earth or go to other four-dimensional worlds. However, the choice is said to result in slower and more difficult growth. Similarly, we can talk to our children until we're blue in the face about safe driving, but nobody ever fully understands until they experience the pain of an accident or lose a loved one in a crash. It's an unusual person who can really learn without experience. Thus the value of a difficult and trying Earth life. The lessons we set out for ourselves before coming to Earth are guided by the conflicts of conscience we feel. All levels of beings come to Earth. Some are of exceptional character and others are best described as evil. The terrible things that occur here and the interactions with which we are faced on Earth permit opportunities to exert our moral character. If all were peaches and cream, nothing would be learned. Regardless of how bad life is, it will be but a blink of the eye in retrospect against a backdrop of infinite existence. Nevertheless, Earth life is tough. It requires significant courage to come here and no little recuperation after. There are other worlds and dimensions that could be chosen aside from Earth. The reports are that we can even be entirely different creatures. Some worlds are paradisiacal, some very difficult like Earth. Others are aqueous, and in others we can be airborne. Some of our weird dreams reportedly give us glimpses of these other lives and environments. In deep sleep, we may be visiting the non-material realm for rejuvenation, but awareness is blocked when we awaken so that realm does not interfere with experiencing this one as a reality. Relationships in the spirit realm are totally open and honest. There are no secrets or pretenses. Hypocrisy doesn't exist. We are fully exposed to ourselves and to others for who we are. There are no enemies. Love, understanding, and patience pervade. After death, people instantly access friends, relatives, and others who are at a similar level of development and interest. There are countless other beings in the non-physical realm. They are all at different stages of development and in the appropriate developmental spheres. Those at very high levels do not return to physical life. Those at very low levels suffer from the hell they create for themselves. Hades, or hell, is not torture, but a condition of limbo for those resistant to development or confused about the transition from physical life. But help and love are always there for the asking. People tend to associate with the same group and recycle to Earth into different roles in association with them. These pre-Earth relationships are said to be the reason we gravitate to the people we do on Earth. A mother may end up as a child of her husband. A murder victim may be the father of a murderer. A rich person may return as a servant in the home of a former beggar. Soulmates may be just that, intimately close people in the other plane who recognize one another almost instantly on Earth and are powerfully attracted. Of the thousands of people who have been studied and claim to have had other Earth lives, almost all recall mundane and boring lives as peasants, laborers, farmers, and primitive food gatherers. Very few recall life as an aristocrat or being famous. This defeats the argument that such recollections are fantasies. If you're going to make up a previous life, why not say you were Napoleon or Aristotle? All the big questions are more fully answered once we leave Earth's confining dimensions. We'll comprehend timelessness, infinity, and ultimate causes more fully. The ethical pull and the desire for truth we feel while on Earth are reflections of our greater purpose of being. We've been created as companions. As good companions, we must have free will to either join, love, or separate from, hate our neighbors and Creator. Relentlessly pursuing truth shows our respect for and desire to join with the ultimate truth, our very source. In this regard, it's interesting that the Egyptians pictured an accounting at death in the form of a scale. On one side of the scale was truth, represented by a feather. On the other side was one's heart. If they balanced, life in the afterworld was good. If truth was not properly pursued, there was a penalty to be paid. Surrender to the pure mind of truth, a formless, genderless, angelic state of pure love and contentedness, is the ultimate goal. This process, for as long as it takes, is what our existence is all about. So death is a part of life, not its end or some abstract religious experience requiring faith. Contemplating a continuing life on the other side of death, where loved ones reside, learning is endless, challenge and creativity are everywhere, love is boundless, pretense does not exist, and growth is unlimited, is undoubtedly a wonderful prospect. But our enthusiasm for it should just be in proportion to the evidence in its behalf, and the degree to which we open-mindedly pursue it as if thinking matters.
Thank you for listening. Keep in mind that solving the big questions requires foundations upon which truthful answers can be built. So please work through the series sequentially. This information has taken decades of research, thought, and writing. Aside from the peace of mind the solutions have brought me, the only reward I seek is hearing that it's helped you. Feel free to contact me with any comments or questions at asifThinkingMatters.com.